Hi everyone, it's Roger here from What's on Disney Plus. It's time for our weekly live Q&A. So big thank you to all of our YouTube channel members and patrons for their support. So this video goes out to everyone so they can all watch. And also if you're a YouTube channel member, you can also join in on the live chat. You can also send in the super chat function as well, all of which help support the channel. I've had a lot of questions sent in by our patrons and YouTube channel members in advance. Plus they can, as I said, they're joining in with the live one. I'll be flipping in and out between the pre-done questions and the live ones. See quite a few people already in the live chat. So in here I can see that we've got Matt, Sosuna, Babak, Khalid, or Keenan, sorry, Noxwave, Sosuna and Babatrolling. Good, you can all hear me. So that's all good to go. So lots of questions this week. So let's just start off. So I did a poll, and we'll do a few polls throughout the it'll be about an hour or so, depending on how many questions we've got. I asked you, what do you consider a flop? Do you think it's box office results being poor viewership across all platforms, a bad product, or all of the above? So this is in reference to a question that Babak made. He says, does Disney need to reconsider how it considers a show or a movie successful? Only releasing content on Disney Plus US is going to greatly impact the numbers. So I thought this was an interesting thing I thought I'd kind of get in on was definitely feel the concept of what is a flop is very, in some ways, especially in the movie online community, it seems to be quite often a little bit of a very sort of simple case of movie does really well at the box office and makes loads of money, or is the number one show or film on streaming. That's kind of it's either the best and it's broken records or it's a flop. There's not really anything in between sometimes. And sometimes that gets a little bit lost because there's no doubt about it. Disney had a really bad year at the box office in 2023. They did not hit a lot of their milestones. A lot of films did not meet the break-even point, which is basically most people generally go by the idea of double the production budget, because for every ticket that they sell at the cinema, they have to give half of that or basically about half of that to the cinema chain. And there's costs involved with advertising and stuff. So yeah, if you basically double the budget, if that kind of gives you a break-even point of the film at the cinema. Now, this is the key thing. That is always just at the cinema, but movies do go on to make money in other ways. They get money from being sold on digital platforms. They get sold through DVD and Blu-ray. They make money from rentals. They then make money from it through streaming services, like obviously through Disney Plus. If you're watching it on there, they've got your subscription, and so therefore that your viewership would kind of count towards, if you maybe stayed because you've been watching the latest movie. They can then license it out to television companies like here in the BBC, and then you've got like ITV and different ones in the US and in Australia, etc. They can then license out to other streaming platforms. That's just it. Then they got merchandise, and then you can sell toys and video games and books and comics and all kinds of stuff. So there's not just a one thing. So like Elemental, it's basically made back its production budget and double that at the box office. So it's considered a box office success. But like I said, it's not all comes down with success of a movie to be as just on that. And I do think they need to, redefine what they view as a success. Obviously, with a television series, there's no money involved in terms of box office. That comes down to views. And it's going to be that thing of, did enough people watch it to make it, did they get enough value out of it in terms of subscriptions? And more importantly, and I think this is the one they're really going to go on, how much money does it make from advertising with people watching it? And if they can license it on, etc. It's primarily, I would imagine the main one really is how much money it makes with advertising. That's going to dictate. Good ratings means more money from advertising, and that's really where they're going for. Viewership numbers are great, but let's be honest, the company is going to look at how much money they make from that show rather than how many people watch it. If a load of people watch it, that is a great advantage, and that can really help boost up a streaming service. If you get a big strong series like Percy Jackson right now, that is a good way of bringing people in, and that therefore they make more money. Some shows as well, that's going to come down to, did it bring in enough viewers? Did it work out with advertising, etc.? A show could be, doing, if it does well with advertising, it's got much more better chance of continuing to go along But yeah, so that's I do think, we do need to readjust it. There used to be a time when movies used to make a lot more money on the back end with DVD sales and stuff. Unfortunately, that era is gone. And a bit like with CDs and videotapes and all the rest of it, eventually some of these things just run their course and they dry up, and those avenues are just not there anymore. And I see it online with people talking about the idea of, going back to physical, and and it's like, it's just not enough. It's not gonna do that. It's just not gonna be enough. I think there's always gonna be a market for the physical media, especially with like collector's editions, and there's always going to be a little market for this. And I think they'd be stupid to avoid it, because look at music now. The amount of times you see stuff now being released on vinyl, of all things, like really weird. If like when I was growing up, vinyl was like, no, that was the old technology. We all had CDs. It was all cool. Yeah, and then it all went to MP3s, and then went all onto streaming. But you go through different formats. But now kind of the collecting aspect has gone back to vinyl. I don't think we'll be going back to VHS. I think Blu-ray 4K HD is probably the best way to go. Keenan says, since Mulan was a Premier Access film on Disney Plus, was that considered a box office because it was not a Disney Plus original? Yeah, so that one there, that was a unique situation. That movie, obviously, how well it did at the box office and Disney Plus Premier Access rentals and stuff. But you also got to, in all honesty, everything released in the pandemic, they have just, it's basically just, if they claw back some money, they weren't making money at that point. They were just trying to keep going and stuff. But yeah, so I asked you a question. About 44% of you think it's all of the above. I think that's definitely more to me of it's all of it, because you can have a really good film, awful box office. But then this is where some films used to go on to become massive successes on home video and on television. Hocus Pocus is a prime example. I think even Nightmare Before Christmas. A load of films actually go on to become really big hits afterwards. Even Encanto was like that. Thank you very much for being a member, Baba Trolling, for 31 months. Fantastic. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for Sosuna for redoing your membership. Thank you for coming back. That is fantastic. Let's keep going. So Keenan says, the reason why Deadpool 3 is the only MCU release this year is because there's 3 Spider-Man films coming this year. Well, that's not actually the reason. The reason simply is the strikes stopped them being able to film the rest of Captain America. They weren't ready for Thunderbolts. If there wasn't a strike, they might have already started filming on that there. I think had they not had the strikes, Falcon would have come out. I actually think it's going to work out really good this year with the 3 Sony movies coming out and only 1 Marvel film. Allows Sony to kind of get their rubbish out the way. And I think Madam Web is going to be a bomb. This is going to be, I think this is going to take less than Blue Beetle. I think Madam Web is going to set records on how badly a box office movie is going to do, because I just think this one's going to do really badly. Yes, and I think this is going to set up Sony for being like, we can't keep doing what we're doing because this isn't working and the audience is just not there anymore. That's what's going on with that one. Babak says, I've seen a lot of ads for Disney Plus promoting old and sometimes cancelled shows with the tagline recover the classics. Why is Disney putting so much focus on old content instead? I think it depends on where. I mean, I don't know. Like here in the UK, the advertising is very much more based around. I think at the minute they're kind of pushing comedy. There's lots of here's the comedy stuff you want. Over Christmas, it was like the creators coming. You've got, I think it was the Creator, the Bear, Percy Jackson, all the main new ones and stuff. The simple truth is that as of right now, we're going into February in a week's time. We do not know of one Disney Plus original dropping in February. I think there's a spark short at the minute. We do not know about one film. We do not know about one series or anything really for February. And we are about a week. I've never seen it like this before, where we've got things like some National Geographic shows dropping in the US, like Genius, but it is yeah, this is just, we're in this weird bit before Disney Plus like relaunches with the Hulu and Disney Plus stuff in March. It's a really weird time, but they're pushing the Disney stuff as well because that's what sells Disney Plus to most people. I think you're going to see a massive advertising campaign in the US when the Hulu and Disney Plus official, because they've not even really actually even started advertising yet. It's very much in the early stages at the minute. Tim says, what other Disney Channel shows would you like to see Disney reboot or sequel or revival for? Right, so I will say I am a little bit. The thing is, here in the UK, is the Disney Channel launched a bit later here in the UK than it did in the US. So I didn't grow up on Disney Channel. We had like the Disney afternoon cartoons, but they would air on a Saturday morning, like Chip and Dale, DuckTales. So those are the ones I liked. And also it was like a Sky Premium channel. You needed to have access to like Sky Cinema, which was the expensive movie package. We never had that. So I never grew up on the Disney ones. And when all these like shows like Hannah Montana and stuff, I was too old to be interested in those kind of shows. I was interested in other stuff at that point. So I don't have any nostalgia for most of the Disney Channel things. I know a lot of people have got a lot of excitement for it, but I don't look at, I've got no nostalgia goggles. Personally, I think Disney needs to stop looking to the past for inspiration for dealing with the kids of tomorrow. I think trying to shoehorn in this whole thing of like the Wizards of Waverly Place. Yeah, the odd one or two might work to get parents in and they might get the kids watching it and stuff, but they need to make a show for kids for today. Or more importantly, for tomorrow. They've got to, what they're coming up with just isn't clicking. Kids are just not connecting because, with TikTok and YouTube and everything, the kids are just watching stuff, TV very differently. And I don't think trying to recapture shows from the noughties is really going to work going on. So that's my view. But have you got any ideas for what shows you'd like to see? And this is the trouble is with these revivals and sequels and stuff is you've got adults quite often that want them brought back because they have nostalgia for it, but the kids of today will not have that same nostalgia, and therefore it has to stand on its own 2 feet. Bubba Trolling says, do you think that Disney will sunset the Disney Now app and make deals with cable companies to provide Disney Plus as of? Yeah, so I would imagine that Disney Now I'm guessing it will probably be gone within the next year to 2 years. I think as the cable carriages contracts come up for renewal, they will then be getting Disney Plus. So like if you're a Spectrum cable customer, you no longer need the Disney Now app because you've got Disney Plus. And I think that's where they'll be able to start getting rid of that app. I think, to be honest, when they've probably got the couple of the big, if they get a big enough chunk of the audience, that's when it's more likely to go. But again, there might be a contract that might be in place that they have to keep it in place until they've all signed new deals. But I would imagine that when they sign new deals, that will be what happens. And it says, do you think when Hulu and Disney Plus fully merge in March, will Disney do an anything campaign, or will they just drop the merger onto Disney Plus? So it's not really. I don't think it's going to be like, it's not a full merger. Hulu is still going to be running independently, and you can still. The only difference is that Hulu hub is then going to be able to be seen by everybody in the US. That Hulu hub will be there for everyone. But when you click on it, you're then going to get prompted to, you might be able to get in there and see what's in there, but you're going to be then prompted to upgrade or get the subscription. So it'll be there pushing it. I think we'll see all the stuff on the front page kind of changing, showing you all the different shows and stuff. I'm hoping at the same time there's a big upgrade in all the features. Internationally, we get an upgrade as well. So there's a lot of stuff on it. But yeah, this will be when they really push. I don't think it was fully ready in time, but I also think as well they were just setting the tone that now, when this happens now in March, the advertising campaign will make a lot more sense because there's going to be a lot of people across the US that have already got the Hulu bundle, the Hulu hub in there, and therefore are going to be like, oh yeah, okay, and then it'll make more sense. But I think, I don't think we're not in the full merger just yet. Let's have a look now at the live comments. Let's see what we've got coming in. Matt says, what do you think of Millie Gibson leaving Doctor Who already? I'll talk about this a little bit more again on tomorrow's Disney Plus news. I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised. I would have thought that I did think that she might have got at least season 2 out the way first. I think I think this is not good for going into season 1 because now instantly there's almost like this, like, I wouldn't say cancellation feeling of like, okay, I don't want to. It's like I don't want to get connected to this character because she's gone, and it's going to cause that problem for people to be like, well, she's going soon, so I don't need. They're just going to pay a lot less attention to her. I think. I don't know how it's got out in the way that it has from the Daily Mirror and stuff, but obviously because they're filming season 2 now, it was going to come out, but it does feel like this is going to put a bit of a bruise on the series beforehand, before it's even come out, and yeah, I don't know. I definitely feel this was, yeah. I'm not surprised because a lot of actresses and actors that join Doctor Who as companions, most of them only do a few years. Even most doctors only do a few years. This is not a, these shows don't, they don't stay around for too long. But yeah, so I was a little bit surprised by it. Bubbuck says, what do you think about Bob Iger getting paid 30 million this past year, also while cutting jobs to save money? Okay, so there's a couple of elements to this. First off, obviously 30 million a year is a lot, but he's going to be losing a lot of that in tax. I don't know exactly how the tax system works for employees, but if he was in the UK, he'd be losing at least half, if not probably more than that, in tax because of our system. So he would be losing a lot of that in taxes. The other thing as well is this weird thing with executives and high-paid ones. They are massively overpaid, so there's no point in sugarcoating it. It is massively overpaid. But these are highly stressful jobs, and they have a lot of responsibility. They're in charge of huge corporations, and in order to attract the best people, they have got to pay big amounts of money. And I think there's always this like weird little thing going around with CEOs and big executives and stuff, where they should be on like, well, they're not doing a very good job. Maybe they should be on like minimum wage. So it's like, it's like they have these jobs because there's so much pressure, the hours involved, in order to get someone that's really good, you're going to have to pay. Now, I think his drop has come down. It is ludicrously high. I mean, to be honest, let's be honest. If you knock the zero off, if he was getting paid $3 million dollars a month, or $3 million a year, sorry, I'd still say that was a lot. But I think this attack on like on their CEOs with their money and stuff, it is ludicrous, and there is no point in doing it. But they have to pay these kind of monies to have the level of people that do it. Yeah, we'd all love to do it, but I think we would all probably more than likely buckle under the stress extremely quickly when there's that much pressure on it. I know everyone's a nice, a quarterback CEO, and we all got our ideas of what we would do if we own Disney or Warner or WWE or something like that. We've all got these ideas, but they and also I think there's that other issue as well of quite often they have to get paid a lot because if something goes wrong, they are out, and they've got to, it's a very weird system. They are vastly overpaid. Now, don't misunderstand that. 30 million a year is way too much, but you've got to compare it to other companies and stuff, in order to get that kind of level of stuff. It's not quite so there. Aaliyah says it's about half in the US, I believe, with taxes, so high amounts like that. I think that's the thing. He would be paying a huge amount of taxes on that thing. Babak says, why did they already announce a new Doctor Who companion for season 2 when they haven't even seen season 1? Well, they didn't announce it. You got to remember, it didn't get announced. This got out through the newspaper over the weekend, so it wasn't announced by any stretch. The BBC just confirmed it. Kenny says, I don't know what Disney defines as a flop, but the general definition of a box office dud is something that doesn't break even in the profits to cover the costs of marketing. Yeah, I think that's generally what most people like within the cinema system kind of look at it. Obviously, like a show would be very different, but there is other elements. I think if a show gets to break even, then most people will then go, well, it's going to make money somewhere else. But most shows, most films and stuff. But yeah, there's no doubt about that fact that Disney had way too many flops. Keenan says, I heard that Jodie Foster was offered the role of Princess Leia in Star Wars, but declined because she was working on Freaky Friday. That's the thing with Hollywood. A lot of actors and actresses end up they've got contracts, so they have to do other jobs and stuff like that. It's all very normal for this kind of thing to happen. And here's the thing is, just because, if she got the role instead of Carrie Fisher, the film could have done better. the film could have done worse. Her career could have been different. I mean, I think Jodie Foster has had a really good career with over the years. I would probably say, I think personally, I would say that Jodie Foster probably had like better success in films in terms of doing more options and Oscars and stuff like that than Carrie Fisher. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that happen with this. Barbara Trolling says it thinks it's all of the above. So that's some question. Matt says, what do you think will get February's list for the US? So this is kind of an interesting one. It's been a little bit of an interesting week this week. So generally, the US list, this has been the case for the last 3+ years. So usually around the middle of the month, we get a list sent to us with, I'd say like 90% of what's coming to Disney Plus in like the following month and on Hulu and ESPN. After the US list drops, it's usually around about anything between the 15th and the 20th of the month. We usually get the list. It can vary. It's not always the same day every month. It can vary. Then after that, usually we then get like the UK and the Canada list within a few days. And then about a week later, we get the Australian list. Well, this week we've not had the American list drop. And I'll be honest, I was surprised it didn't in some ways, because I was waiting for it when it would normally drop every single night of the week. I'd be sat there watching TV, because the minute it comes in, all hands down, I'm then working for the next like 4 or 5 hours doing bits and pieces. So I'm waiting for this to drop. And I'll be honest, it sounds awful, but when I know it's midweek, when I know that it's this month, well, that's kind of this time of the month, I will purposely not book in going out. If I won't go out and I won't go out and play Warhammer, I won't book any games, I won't go cinema, I won't book any. If someone says to me like, they want to get for me or something like that, if it's between like the 15th and the 17th, I will literally decline and say I can't do those nights. I won't do interviews. I actually try and keep that clear every single week for that particular reason. So it is kind of weird when you sat there and it didn't drop. So I'm hoping that it's going to come next month or next week. Sorry. There could be some differences. This could be that they are going to be going over a new system. They maybe, after the years of everything they've been doing, they might change the schedule. That might be that they're going to try something different. They're going to maybe do it a little bit later. With the launch of Hulu on Disney Plus, they want to get everything in line and redo how they do these lists. They might not even tell you everything that's coming the same way, because while that's standard and that's what we've got used to here in the UK, when we get lists, they don't have all the information. They don't tell you what's coming every single day of the month. You only get the highlights. They don't tell you all of it. They could follow the similar suit in the US. Now, I do have some other ideas that maybe because February is so light, there is one title that they are really reliant on, which is the Marvels. And because of that just coming out on digital this week, they didn't want to undercut the digital performance of that film to take away the potential. If they said on, I don't know, Wednesday or Thursday this week that the Marvels was coming to Disney Plus on whatever date it was in February, the movie only came out on Tuesday, it would drastically undercut everything over the weekend. So I don't know if that, and because they're going to be reliant on, as I said, we've got Genius coming in the US, but it's not going to be on Disney Plus here in the UK for a while because it's going to Nat Geo. There's going to be some other bits and pieces. There's like a new Suncoast film on Hulu, and you've still got like the Death and Other Details show dropping every week. But and we've got Shogun dropping at the end of February. But in terms of Disney Plus, at the minute, we don't know anything. And that might be why they're not ready to announce anything, or maybe they're just changing it all up. Who knows? All up in the air. The rule book always can get thrown out the window. Just because that's how they've always done it doesn't mean that's how it's going to stay forever. Things change. We just got to roll with the punches and go with it. So hopefully that explains a little bit of my thoughts on that. But like I said, usually it would have been now, hasn't. Could be a number of different reasons. We won't know really. We'll probably never know. But if it's the same thing next month and the same thing the month after that, then we can tell that there's a new routine. We did that one. Ricardo says, I just saw on Netflix Latin America, a former Max original called The Tourist will be coming to streaming alongside season 2 that's not aired. It would be cool if this needed something original. Okay, I'm actually watching the second season of The Tourist. The first season was really good. It came out here in the UK a couple of weeks ago. The first season was set in Australia, and I really liked it. I'm about halfway through season 2 right now. It's set in Ireland. Not such a keen fan. The simple truth is, I think Warner Brothers that had the distribution for it, because I think they did something similar in the US. They've just dumped it. I don't think the viewer. It almost feels like this is just a dump to get rid of it. Knoxway says, I thought Black Widow was a success in box office. It's also earned a lot of money on Disney Plus Premier Access. I think it did enough that it was okay. It probably did enough to just become one. Kelly says, I remember Boham mentioned in an interview that Shah Rukh Khan shouldn't be solely judged on his box office success, but how his movies make you feel. This applies. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You can have a really, really bad box office hit, or just doesn't do very well. You can really like it. Just because it didn't do very well at the box office doesn't mean that the movie's bad. There can be other circumstances with it. Elias says, will Disney Plus have a way to clear it, continue watching? That row is piled up for me no matter what I do. Fast forward, this needs a solution. Yeah, it would be. Especially, like I do it sometimes. I'll click on something to get a little bit of information, and sometimes I'll just start it, and I literally turn it off, and like I'll have one in there, I think, and then you're like, I literally watched 2 seconds, and I've got no interest in watching it, and it sits there. So yeah, it would be nice to be in there. So Suna says, when will Modern Family be on Disney Plus? I don't know yet in the US. I would imagine that, as we've said before, the contract ends in February. We don't know if that's the 31st of ends in January. We don't know if that's the last day of the month, but we'll hopefully find out hopefully this week. Yeah, we did that one. Babak says, do people who don't have the Hulu bubble not see the Hulu tab currently? No, that's the key thing. You have to have the bundle in order to see the Hulu tab at the minute. So at the minute it's still hidden. So if you don't have it, you won't see it. But what's going to happen with the new launch of Hulu on Disney Plus in March, when it rolls out properly, everyone in Disney Plus will see that, and therefore that'll be the big difference. Barbara Trolling says, do you think cable companies going to switch to wholesale of streaming service? I think they're already really shifting to that anyway, because they'll take a cut, because this is the thing. They'll be selling it at a wholesale price, and they will be able to offer it on to like us cheaper, but Disney will still be getting the money from it, and they'll all be taking a cut. It's like Apple takes a cut, Google takes a cut, everyone takes a cut, and that's how it's all going to work. Kelly says, I do blame the likes of Vince McMahon and Elon Musk for behaving like circus clowns that social media hates. We'll see. I think in general, most people pretty much hate anyone that is a manager, a supervisor, an owner, an executive. They all get the blame for everything. It's just that's kind of how it works. Kenny says, not just box office money, there's also movie critics. Well, I think there's definitely a movie can be a critical hit with reviews, but let's be perfectly honest. That might sit well with the creatives, but with the executives and with the people that make the money, it means nothing. They would rather have a film that is probably the most worst review, if it had every review was a 1-star and it made $1 billion at the box office, than the other way around. So I think that's the way of it. Kelly says, sometimes the actors get cast in films works out for the best. Will Smith turned down Neo for The Matrix, but he said he's glad he turned it down since Keanu was a better fit. Yeah, I mean, and also, well, those roles would be so different that you wouldn't know anything different. Barbara Tronic says, do you think that Warner Brothers Discovery care about people's hate speech against Warner Brothers Discovery and David Zaslav, how they deal with it? I'm sure there will be an element of people that there are frustrated and upset with it. I think anyone would be upset with any kind of backlash. But unfortunately, with the way that the internet has got, there's always going to be people that don't like what they do, and they're probably going to get more and more used to it, to the point where they're actually paying less and less attention to it. YouTube comments and Twitter comments, they're probably never even going to look at them now, because it is just full of just stuff. They're going to be looking at different matrix. They're going to obviously check monitoring and checking and stuff, but there's going to be a level of like a certain amount of hatred for everything they do, and they're just going to be expected, and that will be calculated into it. Kelly said, I wouldn't be surprised if they pushed the Marvel's release to March on Disney Plus to have it align with Women's History Month. Then again, I'm not Disney. I don't know. I think we're probably more likely going to get Wish in March, because they're going to want to have to spread these two releases out, because after Wish there's not really going to be anything big dropping from the Disney side for a while. And I mean, I would have it so the Marvels was, and also, I mean, you could go the other way as well with Black History Month, but generally I think that's the way that they've worked out. Ricardo says, is it known that the Channel 24 Kitchen, it used to be on Fox? I think they've got it in the Netherlands or something like that as well. Aaliyah says, do you know why or heard why they don't address the continued watching row? It's just annoying. Haven't heard anything. But again, if you only really have to look at Disney Plus over the last couple of years, they have made very little changes to how it really works from what we can all see. They've probably been tweaking and doing stuff in the background for a long time. But for us, I mean, yeah, there's not been a lot of changes in terms of what we can see on a physical. And I'm hoping that with the relaunch of Hulu on Disney Plus in March, this is when we start getting a lot more of those features and stuff to kind of, personally, I don't know why they don't just start bringing in a few of these things a bit early and making sure they work. That's the other thing. Knoxwave says, when do you think Wish will hit on Disney Plus? Now the digital release is January the 23rd and physical media on March 12th. I would say it may release next month. I'm now going with the idea as a rough guess, and this is just purely as a guess. I tend to think now like the same week as the physical release seems to be about right. They need these films to make more money on the digital, and they are trying to get people out of the habit of expecting them all on Disney Plus within weeks. And the only way they can do that is to keep spreading it out. And, you know, if they go to, like I said, I would imagine that Wish is going to be around that same time. It'll also be, Wish could be the big sort of tentpole release for March, really. Knoxway says, I feel like Warner Brothers Discoveries went downhill since they cancelled the Batgirl film. I think it's basically gone since Zaslav. I think also we're a lot more aware of him because he's become like the twisty villain kind of CEO kind of thing. Of he's done a lot of stuff. Ryan says, what's on Disney Plus now? So what Disney is not Disney Plus now, it's called Disney Now, and it's a streaming app that's only available on cable services in the US, and so it would give you access to like Disney Channel content the day after. Elias says, I think studios will research as to why something is dislike only if a production underperforms, reaches the normies. Otherwise, then you just think it's the loud vocal minority. And this is the thing is with the online world now is they are going to have to, you only have to go. I mean, sometimes any company, you go into any company's posts and it's just full of sometimes random issues, random exclusives, and like there's so much stuff in there now on like Disney ones that they are just going to be it's just white noise, because also a lot of it is bots and just people that have got an obsession with just shouting negative stuff on the internet. And they're going to be looking at it, and also they're going to be taking much more attention to the money side of things and the viewership data. That's going to be much more, like you say, if they need to do postmortems on every release, good or bad, and I'm sure they do. I mean, I wouldn't expect them not to be doing it. There should be meetings involved, dissecting how a movie did well or bad on digital, on Disney Plus, on they should, you would imagine there would be these things going along. You would just assume that there would be. Ricardo says, do you think there would be a big twist as Sony buys Disney? I don't think it's possible. It would be crazy. It's crazy because I don't think they've got enough money to do it. And to be honest, I think Sony's kind of gone now into its movies, and its TV division are just being sold to whoever has stuff. And PlayStation is what's really kind of pulling in there. It's kind of weird because Sony was always, when I was growing up, it was TVs and like cassettes and the Walkman and all this lot. That's PlayStation. And it's a fantastic device. It's a good device. Chris says, if a movie flops in the theater, what makes them think that it will make money on digital release? To many people would rather wait for a streaming release. Yes, then that's it. but they still make money on that digital release. They still, they can still make. I don't think they make anywhere near what they used to on DVD, but again, it's making you wait. I'm a prime example of me. So this afternoon we watched Killer, the one with the Martin Scorsese film. So we watched that on Apple TV Plus this afternoon. That was a film that I wouldn't have paid to go watch. There was no chance of going to cinema because it was like 45 hours long. It could have been a mini series. No way I was going to rent it. But the fact that I had it included in my subscription was like, I will watch it. I'll give it a go. It was okay. I didn't like the ending. Napoleon is another one where I'm like, I really want to watch that film. Don't want to bother renting it. But sometimes a film will come on. We'll sit here on a Sunday afternoon and we will rent a movie. We'll quite often rent one. I ain't paying stupid like $15-20 for a rental because I feel like that is ridiculous. Yeah, I just don't see the point in doing that one. Kelly says, I don't see it regarding Sony. They continue to license films, but that's about it. Yeah, I think that's it. Right, let's jump back into some other questions. Feel free to keep sending in your live ones. Shall we do a new poll? Let's do a new poll first, shall we? So about most of you think it's all of the above. Okay, so let's do... Actually, this is a good one. So, when do you think Wish will arrive on D+? Feb, March, April. Let's have a look there. I'm not putting January because it's not coming. It's not going to be coming this week. Right, let's see what we've got here. Okay, here's a good one. Mammoth says, what will be the outcome of the Proxy fight? Will it lead to more changes at Disney? So last year so this is basically Nelson Peltz and a guy that used to run, like, who used to be part of Disney, but he ended up getting kicked out because he didn't get the CEO job. You've also got Ike, that was the runner of Marvel, and he left last year. So he's been buying up a lot of stock, and he's been trying to get a board and another place on the board to change things up at Disney. Now, it's been getting a lot of attention. He's doing a lot of things. He did this last year, and he wanted to bring about some changes to Disney. He wanted a lot of cuts to be made. He wanted to restore the dividend, and he wanted them to restore the magic. They had apparently some meetings and stuff, but a lot of the stuff that he wanted, Disney did do, and therefore he backed down at the last minute. Now, this year, it's a little bit different. He's still pushing forward that he wants to get on the board, and he wants to make some changes, and he wants to... I read through his like manifesto of what he wants them to do, and it was a little bit like, it just read like, make me more money, be like Netflix, make more money at the parks, and make me more money. And I'm like, you're not saying how to do this. Make better movies. Well done. That's a really good one. Just make more better movies. That's so easy. Make more money on sports. Yeah, just do it. And it's like, be more profitable in streaming. Be like Netflix. But to be like Netflix means they have to do everything else that the linear and the net and the television and the and the cinema releases. That's not how Disney doesn't work the same as Netflix, because they make money elsewhere. Yeah, I think it's all going to blow over. I don't think he's going to get in. I think the fact that Disney have gone to other of the people that own huge amounts of stock, I mean, massive ones, and kind of got in them to kind of with big votes. I think he'll be outvoted. He's making a lot of noise to make a lot of things. He wants more money. Here's the simple: if the stock price goes up and he makes more money, he's happier because he's been buying up loads of money and he thinks that he's going to make a big difference. Now, ultimately, he's not going to become the CEO because he's got no experience in the company and they would not vote for it. The trouble is if he gets on the board, it's going to be, to me, it's more of a distraction. He's going to be undermining stuff, causing problems, wasting time at meetings, pushing stuff that he doesn't know what he's worked on lots of other different companies and stuff. I just think it's all a distraction. They need to make changes. They need to make a lot of changes. There's no doubt about it. But I don't believe Peltz is just after lining his own pockets. He doesn't care about the magic. He doesn't care about any of that. He just wants more money. It's like Ken said, he would be worse than Bob Chapek. If he was in charge, yeah, it would be, he's just trying to revert everything back to the past, where because he wants, to get it back up. He wants it back up to $200 a share, so he can make, 30-40 billion dollars. That's why he wants to do it. Keenan says, I heard rumors that the Mandalorian film will be released on May 22nd and Rey Skywalker film on. Any thoughts? It's just, they could be anyone. I think the trouble is there's no official dates, and until they actually get these things filmed, they could be anytime. Bubbuck says, do you think Marvel and Star Wars making movies based on characters from the Disney Plus shows is a good idea, since there are many fans who won't watch the show and may skip the movie? I get what you mean with the idea of that it's a TV series and it's gone to a movie, but I would say right now, I think Mando being in a movie with Grogu is probably a much safer bet than pulling in from like Rey. I don't know what they're gonna. I don't know if they're gonna have to do something a little bit different with the Rey movie, but Mando is safer. It's easier, and they need to move away from the Skywalker era. And this is a good way of kind of doing it in. And I think that's probably the best way of doing it. I think a Mando movie will do well. Mando and Grogu are very, very popular characters. Yes, getting people to watch it that have not watched it on big screen is going to be an issue. But I think the budget is going to be much more in line, that it doesn't need to make as much for it. I think that's going to be the thing. Tim says, when do you think the ad-supported tier is coming to Australia? I've got the email on Friday saying that it might launching on March 4th. Yeah, so Tim did send me the message. I'm going to look at it this week when I've kind of had a bit of a light weekend. It's going to launch soon. The fact that they're sending out messages saying about wanting you to sign contract or new terms and conditions, it might not necessarily launch on that date, but they're probably getting ready to launch around that date and get it ready. I think we had to sign. I think they sent out new terms and conditions maybe a few weeks before we had them. Tim says, when do you think Disney will start filming on Wizards of Waverly Place sequel series? That is not an easy thing to say. I'd imagine it's pretty soon. I would imagine it's, and they're only doing the pilot. That's the key thing. They're only doing the pilot. Mahmoud says, what are your predictions of what would happen to see everything related to Disney from now until the end of the year? Oh, that's quite a big one. Predictions, I think we're going to see a big boost from Hulu and Disney Plus, and them really, really revving in on that as the big platform. That's going to be their relaunch of Disney Plus. I think that's going to be the big key thing. Give Disney Plus a huge boost. And I think there might be a new bundle of something. I don't know. It's this weird thing. We're going to be bundling. It's like you've already got a bundle, but maybe they just do. It's not even so much a bundle. It's like Disney Plus comes with the MoFo. I don't know what they're going to do. I think that would be a better way of doing it, and just get them, just rip it off. Just get it done. Just get it sorted. But I imagine they are going to have to run the two things for a while, simultaneous for a while. I think Deadpool will do well at the box office. I think Planet of the Apes will probably do pretty well. I'm hoping Inside Out does well as well. But I think they are just going to be rebuilding this year. I think like at the theme parks, I don't think we're going to be hearing anything too much about Orlando until maybe D23. Well, I hope at D23. But all the time that this stuff's going on with the election and stuff, they're just going to be trying to keep their heads down. And there's a lot of stuff gets brought up about Florida. And I can simply see they're not spending any money down really there or announcing anything in Florida right now because of the political situation. And they're just waiting for the lawsuits and stuff to kind of get going again on that. I think they're just rebuilding and restructuring and getting themselves ready for 2025. I think this is the key thing. They focused on streaming this year, keeping their heads down, sorting stuff out. And sometimes that's not a bad thing. Just retract a little bit, pull back a bit. They can't be putting out, last year they put out too many films that bombed. They're putting out less so they can concentrate a little bit more. I think just giving themselves a little bit of room. I think that's definitely a thing to look at. If you've got any predictions, let me know. Use the super chat, use the thing. Matt says, do you think they'll share more Hulu shows like linear TV, like ABC? I think we're going to see a lot more sharing between linear and streaming, because we got told the other week 50% audience is streaming, 50% is linear. It makes sense to utilize your assets on both platforms to make as much money. Now, whether or not things debut on streaming and then go to linear or linear, and then I think they should kind of maybe tie them up a little bit more. But it makes sense to make the most of it. You know, you got Only Murders in the Building, put it out on linear, make some money from it. And this is the key thing. The Netflix model works for Netflix, but they haven't got linear channels to feed. So this has, I think, been the biggest problem for Disney is the television studios are feeding so many different stations, TV stations, and then putting like two streaming services as additional channels. And you know, you put all of it together, they are hitting out so much content, but it's spread all over the place. You know, it's that kind of thing of if you sat down and, you know, if I dished up your dinner tonight and like, here's your potatoes, but it's on one plate. And then I give you another plate with your baked beans. And then I give you another plate with your gravy. And then I give you another plate with your meat. And another one with your salt and pepper. And another one with your dessert. You know, if I spread it all out over that area, it looks like you got a lot of food. But if you actually put it all together, it's a proper meal. Keenan says, any predictions or who's going to win the Royal Rumble on Saturday? I don't know. There seems to be a lot of stuff going on that maybe Seth Rollins might be injured, might not be able to make Mania. I'm kind of hoping that Cody wins to set up him facing Roman Reigns and finish the story, because Roman needs to lose. I'm a massive Roman Reigns fan. Really like him. I have enjoyed this reign, but it's time for someone else. I don't really like the idea of CM Punk winning, because I think that's not good for the rest of it. So that's my only thing. I'm kind of hoping that Cody wins. Mama says, what do you think would be a surprise addition of the recent Paramount movies? They weren't on the Hulu list or Hulu on Disney Plus. Do you think that Disney made a deal with Paramount? They have had a deal for a while. The thing is, again, the Hulu lists that they send out in March change. So I always put that subject to change. But they don't update it, and sometimes always. So it's always a bit of a thing, if that's why I'm constantly checking and stuff. But a lot of the stuff necessarily doesn't come in later, and they are making new deals. They are coming in. It's really annoying a little bit with Hulu on Disney Plus, where like what they say comes out today sometimes doesn't arrive till like tomorrow, and sometimes it's a little bit icky and weird. And like Uncharted was supposed to come out on Monday, and then it didn't come out till Wednesday. It's a bit weird. Leon says, will Disney Plus be profitable this year? If so, what methods will they make them profitable? I do think Disney Plus will be profitable this year. I think the boost of ads, I think boosting ads in other countries as well, like with the launches in maybe in Canada, you know, after they've done, you know, they've done it there, and we're doing it in Australia and across Asia. They're doing more stuff as well across Middle East and North Africa. The advertising tier will really help. I think price rises. I think that big jump that they did, I don't think they'll do another one I think it's going to be tight to do in the US with the Hulu and Disney Plus stuff. I think they need to sort that out. But I think they've got a good chance. And also just not really making any series for 6 months has meant that their production costs are going to be much lower. So that will really help. And just putting out less shows. I mean, you look at like now, we've got no Marvel shows now till probably the fall. We've got 2 Star Wars series dropping, but instead of like 3 or 4, there's going to be a lot less. There's just a lot less stuff that they're making. Caleb says, Hollywood is slow to resume most productions in LA post-strikes. How does this impact all the studios going forwards? Where would Disney film most of the stuff outside of LA? So a lot of it is filmed all over the place. They film stuff in Toronto, in Vancouver, Atlanta's a lot of stuff. They film a lot of bits and pieces here in the UK. So they do film a lot outside of LA. Also, I think it's just the costs involved in filming there is a lot higher. So they do shoot a lot outside of LA. As far as like, I think most of the thing seems to be with like getting going again is that even though they got the deal sorted in November, because of all the holidays, it was a bit like they couldn't really get going until January, and now things are starting to, but obviously as well, it takes time to get everyone in place. I mean, it's a bit like obviously like with Daredevil starting filming this week coming up. Vincent had to do all the PR that he was booked in for Echo, so that probably had an impact. Yeah, so things are all starting to get moving again now, but I mean, it's only in the first week of January, things don't really happen. So they've only really had like 2 weeks back after the holidays and stuff, and now suddenly stuff's going again. Colin says, with the success of Percy Jackson and Stranger Things ending, could Disney start an R-rated science fiction show or horror? The lines between Hulu and Disney Plus are blurrier now, so ever. Right, so I think the thing is, of an R-rated show is probably not for like a science fiction or a horror. They don't really need to, because they've got American Horror Story. They can do R-rated horror stuff easily. They're already churning out loads of stuff with FX, and like they're not really going for that there. And I think the trouble is, something like Stranger Things or Percy Jackson would never be able to get to the next level if it was R, because families just wouldn't be watching it and stuff. I think the big thing with Percy Jackson is you've just got a really good story that's based on characters that people have, a generation of kids have grown up watching or reading Percy Jackson. And definitely the lines are definitely changing. Elliot says, if Max ends up closing, do you think there'll be 2 separate services for Warner Brothers and one for Discovery, or will Discovery be completely scrapped? At the minute, Discovery Plus is kind of just going along because it's making money, whereas Max kind of, I don't know, I think it is now. I think with this, really depends on what happens if Comcast actually are able to buy Warner Brothers, or they might end up just closing Max down and merging them. I think they are going to eventually merge at some point, and they'll just start licensing the stuff out. Micah says, after the Emmys last week, I had a fascination to check out The Bear. What makes the Bear good so good to people? So I am a big fan of The Bear. I really enjoyed this series. Now, it is really good. But for me, there was a little bit of a personal connection for me for this, because I used to run a sandwich shop for about 20 years with my parents on the beach, making sandwiches. I mean, not at the level of cooking that he was doing, but a lot of the stuff with The Bear, which especially in the first season, less so with the second season, but the first season, there was so much of that I could relate to in terms of things that go wrong, things that happen with running a business and all the rest of it. So I feel I could definitely see like so much. It's funny because I was having this conversation with someone that, like, because I said, look, it's not really, I don't think of it as a comedy at all. I think there's some funny moments in it, but I didn't really view it as comedy. And they go, oh, well, this crazy thing happens. I'm like, that's not crazy. That happens when you work in kitchens. It felt more like felt like a proper drama. And you know, when you work with people in a kitchen environment and stuff, you do have banter, you do have funny stuff, you do laugh and joke about a bit. And so I didn't really necessarily feel like that as a comedy, but it is. If you've not checked out The Bear, do. It's a fantastic series. It's why it's winning all the awards. Also, Succession, and that's a great show as well. Also, I mean, The Last of Us. I mean, these are. It's kind of weird. I feel like with TV series, where you know when it gets lots of praise, TV series usually are really good. Whereas with movies, when it gets lots of praise, sometimes I don't always go with that. Like, it's kind of weird with that. I've just started the second season of Slow Horses on Apple TV. That's a really good series as well. And Artful Dodger, that's a good one. I'm watching that one. Matt says, so many shows from ABC are either cancelled or ending this year. Do you think we'll get a bunch of new shows next year in the fall on ABC? Yes and no. We probably are going to see a return of some big shows that will be coming in, but also I have a feeling that ABC is going to be cutting back on its scripted anyway. There's lots of rumors of them maybe passing off the 10 o'clock slots to news, so therefore they have to do an hour less of scripted television, so therefore they could put out a lot less content. And I also imagine that what they're going to start doing is, like we've mentioned earlier, of like sharing content from Hulu and so on. So if you've got a show like, I don't know, like Black Cake or Artful Dodger or Only Murders in the Building, etc., you could use those shows to help fill that gap much easier. And it makes more sense to do so. And also those shows can feed like Disney Plus as well. So we're just going to get used to a lot less shows. There's going to be a lot less ones. So the last one, okay, so Suna, we did your question about that earlier, so that's fine. Right, let's now jump into some live chat. So keep sending them in. I'm just going to see where we are. I'm just going down the list, seeing what we get to. Let's just see where we're up to on these questions, because there's a lot of them. Oh, here we go. So Keenan says, I remember that Super Mario Brothers movie was supposed to hit digital 60 days after the theatrical release, but the film was such a box office, it was in theaters a little bit longer. So Universal have a really kind of funky little system, because what they do is they judge how quickly a film goes to digital based on how well it does, probably like the opening weekend. If it underperforms, it gets rushed to streaming or gets rushed to digital after 17 days, and then it gets rushed onto Peacock much quicker. If a film is doing really well, they will delay it until until they've rinsed out every bit of money from a release. And I think that's a good thing to do, to help rinse out the money. I think that makes sense. If you're still making money in the cinema, it makes no sense to put it straight to digital right then. But I do agree sometimes. I do think that Disney's system of just being like, look, it might have flopped, but we're still going to hold off on it for at least 60 days, because we don't want people expecting it too quickly, because they're going to expect the next film to be there quickly. So I think we need a little bit of both. Like Indiana Jones, for example, took a lot longer to get released. Avatar: The Way of Water took much longer to get released. It makes sense to not rush these things. And the idea of just saying everything arrives in 90 days is under, you make the money when you make the money. You make, it's like it is. If you're an ice cream man, like I was, you make the money when the sun's out. And if it's sunny and it's busy and it's blue skies, you stay out and you try and keep going as long as possible. If it's like right now, and I don't know if you can hear it, we've got a storm blowing in, and things are flying around, and it's pouring down with rain. Well, today would be one of those days that you would write off as just, it's just not going to work today. Ricardo says, most of our biggest shows produced by Sony are finishing this year, by the way. Squat and The Good Doctor are about to finish. Yep, a lot of them are coming. A lot of them are coming in. It is bad. I'm seeing a lot of them. Chris says, I would love to see the streaming numbers of these cancer shows, and just do not see how they can get numbers if they do not release shows or movies everywhere at once. So I think there's sometimes some of this information comes out from like Nielsen and stuff, and you look at the numbers that they put out and you go, these are really low. Viewing numbers across the whole are low on all platforms. People are just watching so much more content, but everyone's spread out. And therefore they're not all, and there used to be obviously the water cooler moments, people all watching to say, because it's like anything. If you only had if you only had 5 channels, like back here when I was growing up, we had 4 TV channels. So whatever was on TV on a Saturday night, that meant that everyone was tuned in on those particular channels. So when something was big, it got big, and when everyone was talking about it, was because it was the main thing. But now we have got this plethora of stuff, and we're all watching at different times and stuff. I don't know about you and your family and your friends and stuff, but how often do you get together and you start talking about shows? And I know we do it, and you will start going like, oh, we started watching this, we've started watching that, and then they might go, oh, we're watching this, have you seen that yet? No. Or you should check this out. And then it's usually like, what platform's it on? I haven't got that one. That's usually how it works. So like that's, I know we do it with our friends and stuff, where it's always, and like my family, where we're always like, right, oh, we'll be like, oh, check this show out because it's really good. You might want to like this one. Or we had the other, he goes the other way of, they'll be like suggesting shows that we check out. And so I think there's a big thing of word of mouth really does help, but it's not just online and, talking about films of like, a lot of people saying this is great, this is good, but also just between friends, between work colleagues and stuff like that can all have a big impact just as much. It definitely helps when there's, I think, positive word online. Because I thought like Echo was one of those shows where it was like, yeah, I think it's picked. There was obviously negativity about, but there's negativity about every show. But I think Echo seemed to be a lot more positively expected. Noxwave says, I feel like the sequel to Wizards of Waverly Place should be on Disney Plus and Hulu originals instead of the Disney Channel. It would be cool if they did this for grown-ups like the iCarly revival. Right. This again is the thing of it being on Disney Channel and Disney Plus, they're kind of interchangeable now in terms of Disney. They're kind of the same audience. I wouldn't worry too much about that. I think this idea of making these shows that are kids shows and making them for adults is a really weird idea, because that revival idea of going the nostalgia goggles and all the rest of it, I just don't think that works. I just don't think it's going to work for a number of reasons. You might like that show as a kid, but then you watch it and you go, well, now they're trying to be adults. Are they aiming this at kids or are they aiming at adults? And it's usually, I just find this whole concept of let's take a TV show and turn it into an adult show. And then get up. It's like the simple thing is everything that you watched when you were a kid is better than what any kid is watching now, because you have feelings towards it, you have connections with it. And I think these revivals, the sequels and stuff, they make sense from Disney's point of view, but especially with like a Disney Channel show, you can't change the tone of a Disney Channel show. Like, I think you could do something a little bit different, like, say Percy Jackson season 5 could be a little bit different to season 1 because the kids are that much older, a bit like with Harry Potter, where they can be a little bit more, they've kind of grown up and the stories have gone with the kids growing up. So they're like, the first book is much younger than the last book. So I think that works if you've taken that into account. But just taking a sitcom from the noughties or whatever and just trying to make it towards adults, I think that's a novelty that's only going to last for one episode. And then they'll get, this isn't very good. I'll go back to watching something actually for me. I don't know. I find it very weird of this idea of making a revival of a TV series, but then not aiming it instead of aiming it at the kids for now, you're aiming it at 30-year-old people. I don't know. It just seems really weird. I think it's almost a thing you're trying to recapture your nostalgia, your youth, and I just don't think that works. Lady Jennifer Snow says that Nelson would be a disaster. I hope the board considers 100% agree on that one. Babatronic says, do you think if Comcast would acquire Warner Bros. Discovery, they will continue to have a streaming service or rent it out? I think you'll see them all just come together with Peacock, Discovery, and Max just becoming one. Again, we're at that point. We're at the consolidation stage. There are too many streaming services. People are only going to subscribe to so many, and everyone's realized this now. And having a choice of 10 to 15 streaming services is not realistic. And I also, and it's like, because like if I was talking to someone the other day and they were like, well, we kind of watch other ways. And I'm like, or they'll be like, how many do you have? And they're like, well, I have this and this. And they're like, I literally, I pay attention to streaming so much, but there's even a limit to how many I'm willing to subscribe to. I'm not subscribed to everything. I've got most of them, but I haven't got all of them. I haven't got Now TV, which would be like Now TV is kind of like a combination of Peacock and HBO, and Discovery. So I don't have those free. I don't have Amazon. So that's and then you got all these other ones. So yeah, I mean, there's only so many people have. Kelly put the Mandalorian put Disney Plus on the map. I have spoken. That is right. Chris says, do newer shows need to be more successful on all streaming services if they didn't have so many classic TV shows available? I do think new shows definitely pull people in much quicker. Classic shows work to a certain extent, but I think we can definitely see and I will see this for example, I'm just going to bring up Disney Plus here in the UK. So I'm just going to show you guys something. So just as a little bit of an idea. So let's bring up this one and we are going to share this one. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this. So Disney Plus here in the UK. So as you can see, this is where I did that thing earlier of where I've watched literally 1 second of these shows. Then it's Where is it? Where's the trending tab? Here we go. Right. You look here at like what's trending in the UK. These are all long established, people will put these TV shows on and just let them run and run. And this is what people like. New shows will come in and new things will come in and get a bump. But Criminal Minds, etc., they're not making new series and stuff, but they do help us keep people engaged and keep coming in. And when you talk about classic TV and stuff, like you got The Walking Dead, people are just binge watching these shows in mass, and therefore they're keeping them in. So old shows are still pulling in audiences, because people will put on New Girl and How I Met Your Mother and just leave them on and just let them run and run and run. Same thing with Bob. So the UK list, as you can see there, it's very different. It moves around a little bit. It's actually changed a bit since this morning, since I did the article. But yeah, the trending list shows that those kind of shows are working. When you talk about classic TV series, I'm talking there. The Walking Dead, New Girl, How I Met Your Mother, Grey's Anatomy. Those are the shows that are pulling in audiences continuously. You're seeing it now with Suits recently and Young Sheldon. Those are I hate to break it to people, and I know I know a lot of people online won't like it, but The Muppet Show and Bear in the Big Blue House and House of Mouse or whatever it is, these are not going to make a dent in the numbers. People are not going to watch them in the numbers that you think that they are going to watch them in. Kyle says, with all the cost cutting, do you think shows like Goosebumps, which are good numbers, appear on the Nielsen chart, will get renewed since it's made by Sony? I think Goosebumps has a very good chance. I'm surprised they haven't announced it already, but maybe they're going to leave it a year. But if Goosebumps doesn't get picked up, then, that was a massive hit. That one was really doing really well, really well. Kelly says, if we see films from Paramount or Universe that's on Hulu on Disney Plus, it's likely due to a library content that fits the syndication window. Yeah, I think we're going to see that. I think if Disney are willing to license this content for short term, almost viewing it a little bit like Netflix, where we offer you like more choice and more options and stuff, that might be a way for Hulu to be able to, and Disney Plus, to boost up its numbers a bit, where you start getting other films, and also you get little boosts. We see this a lot where they can drop a movie onto Disney Plus for just say like a month or 2 months because they've just released it from like Paramount or Universal, etc. It gets a boost and then it disappears, and it's just a win-win-win-win. Matt says, what are you doing to ESPN on Disney Plus? So as far as I don't know if that's quite what the question is, but as regards to me covering ESPN Plus content, I do a little bit here and there. I do mainly if there's documentaries, I will kind of cover them. But there was a while here in the UK, we were getting all the ESPN 30 for 30s and other documentaries. We had one about a baseball star recently, but it kind of all stopped. Once if ESPN Plus becomes available within Disney Plus, I will be doing more coverage of sports, especially that angle of it, because it's on Disney Plus. It's just kind of one of those things. That's why with the Hulu stuff, I am revving up the content on that because it's on Disney Plus. It's there. What's on Disney Plus? This. So if the ESPN stuff starts getting added in, or they add in the content, I will do more coverage of ESPN content. We're not going to be talking a huge amount of content and stuff that I'll be talking about because I don't watch a lot of sport. I watch WWE, and I do check out the NFL games. But yeah, I would do a bit more coverage, but it's going to be a little bit. But it depends really on if it gets added within Disney Plus proper. I am hoping it is, because I think sport is a big draw. You also asked, is Grey's Anatomy coming to Disney Plus in the US? So it's coming in March, and it'll be coming in March. Kelly said, I wouldn't be surprised if the future Disney film made in India or made in Japan due to cheaper costs with currency conversion. Yeah, I'm really surprised. I don't know what's going on with the stuff with India. It's kind of weird. They've got the studios out there. They've got all this content. The fact that none of the Hotstar content from Hulu made it over onto Hulu on Disney Plus is a little bit worrying to me that this is going to get sold off to that other, when they sell it off, that's all going to go with it. Made in Japan. I mean, I think we're going to see more animated stuff and bits and pieces and things like that coming in. But yeah, we're definitely going to see some more content like that. So Suni says, when will all the non-exclusive content be removed from Disney Plus that Disney doesn't own, like Everyone Hates Chris and The Full House? So it's going to depend on what the contract for that individual series is. It's definitely going to be because I do need to change those articles I do each month about them, actually, because obviously if it leaves Hulu, it'll also leave Disney Plus if it's on there at the same time. We don't really know when this Comcast stuff is going to start drawing out, or when these contracts are running out. Are they going to renew them? Are they not going to renew them? Also, a lot of these companies now are all streaming out for cash, so they're going to want that money from anywhere. There's a lot of CBS stuff like on there as well. So every single thing is going to be its own individual contract. Matt says, what do you think of that Disney Plus adding game shows? Well, I don't think I think doing game shows like they did for like what was the one we had, the Big Fib, and there was like the Shop Class and the food one. Pretty obvious they didn't work on a global scale because they didn't do any more of them. The Quest, they tried doing game shows. It didn't really work with that audience. Interesting enough, I mean, in the US, they do put out quite a few game shows. I think they do Celebrity Jeopardy, Celebrity Wheel of Celebrity, was it Wheel of Fortune, Press Your, and then Fox, also you get stuff from Fox as well. They're putting some so they're actually in the US, you're actually getting like almost games, you're getting quite a bit of unscripted game show stuff. The trouble is a lot of this stuff is only like, it's kind of weird, it's only US based, because a lot of these like formats have been sold off internationally. Things like also, like, I think Jeopardy is made by Sony, so therefore it's only for the US. So they haven't really got into doing global quiz shows. Also, quiz shows are really cheap. They're a lot cheaper to make. So it just fills in time a bit more. And I think it fits more with linear. It'll be interesting to see how this goes further on. Is the streaming audience going to move to sort of those kind of shows? I don't mind a game show. I'm not the biggest game show fan. I don't like a lot of them. But again, and most of the time, I'm watching them because they're on TV, maybe just before dinner or something like that. I'm just putting them on. But I'm not expecting them to be kind of making new ones as much. Keenan says, I doubt that Max would be closed because it's making a profit. It is making a profit, but they're going to get to a point where audiences are going to start pulling away. I think the addition of the Discovery content in there, but they're going to be a lot less originals, a lot less content coming in. Matt says, do you think the Mandalorian season 4 will happen, or the group, or the movie? I think it's going to be the movie. I don't think there's going to be a series. I think they're going to put all their efforts into making the movie. Kayla says, after seeing how successful Monday Night Football and Dancing with the Stars was for ABC, expect Mondays and Tuesdays to be dedicated to unscripted programming. I wouldn't be at all surprised if that Monday Night Football stays as an ABC show, because, I mean, they might undercut the ESPN aspect. I know what that might like impact a little bit, but advertising money was up. I believe the viewing chip numbers were extraordinarily high because you could watch it in the US, obviously without cable, and they also, the NFL wants casual people, wants people to be able to watch the game. It's kind of funny. Monday Night Football was the only thing that actually airs. We would get most of the games on Channel 5 overnight. So I would usually watch the Monday Night Football games because I didn't have to pay for DAZN. Next year, I think I'm just going to buy DAZN and just use that all year instead. I think it'd just be easier in the long run. Just trying to work out how to watch shows was a bit of a nightmare, but yeah, so I think having Monday Night Football on there was a big success. Dancing with the Stars, again, they are going to do these kind of things. So Suna says, how many seasons do you think Abbott Elementary had? The third season is coming on February the 7th. I'll be surprised if it hits the end of. I could see these shows ending after 3 seasons because of costs. I mean, they could go to 4 or 5, but it's going to depend if Warner Brothers are happy making enough money, and if ABC are willing to pay for it, and also if Quinta is willing to keep making it. She might want to go do something else. I mean, she should be able to make a bit of money, but this is where the things start going. The costs of making that show are going to be much more expensive on the next round. Kelly says, I remember Durkee and Celia released on Christmas weekend in cinemas. However, Celia announced it's hitting Netflix at the end of the month, while Dinky hasn't announced when it hits streaming. Yeah, I mean, they're all playing. Every film is going on like a weird, different system right now, and nothing really makes a lot of sense. Matt says, is there going to be a season 4 of Secrets of Sulphur Springs? I don't think so. Generally, with Disney Channel shows, don't expect them to go too much further than that. So Suna says, when will the Everyone Hates Chris animated reboot come out this year? I hadn't even heard about that. So I haven't heard anything about that one. Kelly says, not every show needs a revival. I know Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters was a hit amongst my generation. However, when they did a film that followed that series, it just didn't click with others. I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a little bit different because, like, a new series coming out is going to be aimed at today's kids, and will get... obviously, they're going to be aiming at trying to sell you the trading cards, trying to sell you toys and video games and all the rest of it. The older audience is going to, if the show is good, you'll watch it anyway. I mean, I just know that, like, in my local area, one of my local game stores, there's a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! I was at the game store yesterday all day. There was loads of Yu-Gi-Oh! Game card stuff everywhere. Kelly said there was an analyst from the Indian media saying that the reason why Disney hasn't been made a big success in India is due to not understanding the market. And they also said with the merger with Reliance would benefit Disney in the long run, since it's expected that the former Disney executive Uday Shankar will head the operations, and Star India was successful on his watch. I think all my rubbish just went flying all over the garden. We're on like a yellow red alert for warning for wind right now. It's a storm brewing. Yeah, I think Disney, the trouble is sometimes with big corporations is different countries do operate a little bit differently, and not everything works in every country, and things sometimes have to be tailored. And trying to apply the US system onto India might just not work. I think there's a general consensus that people in India, obviously, the way that the currency is, it's like worth differently for like a US audience, but obviously over there it's relative. And yeah, it's just not working the same way. And I don't think Disney is. The trouble is, again, I can imagine maybe the executives at Star India are maybe banging their heads against people at the main headquarters going, like, we need to do this. And they're like, no, just put the price up. And they're like, we can't put the price up. And no, you need to put the price up. And like, yeah, but it's not going to work here if we do that. I do think actually not getting the cricket was the right call from the point of view from Disney worldwide, of them going, we're not paying you $3 billion for the rights to this cricket because we're going to be losing money. But I think it's going to be weird. I don't know what's going to happen with India's guesses. I mean, they could merge Disney Plus Hotstar with another one, or they could keep it going and bring in this stuff on the other platform. Who knows? Going to be interesting. But hopefully we get confirmation of what's going on with that soon. Matt says, when are we getting new episodes of Simpsons and the Family Guy? Well, they do drop. This very noticeable with like Fox, for example, with Family Guy and Simpsons. New episodes are very erratic. I didn't really realize this as they were as erratic as they are, because as I said, growing up, what over here, what would tend to happen is these shows, the UK companies would hold on to them until they backed up enough, and then they would release them weekly. So they'd have them. So new episodes of The Simpsons would be dropping weekly for like 20 weeks. But the US system is all over the place. I mean, like every week there's a different one. So, but they do end up in the US. They will go on to like Disney Plus again. So, like for example, tonight on Fox, there is There's Simpsons, but I don't know if that's a new episode. It doesn't particularly say, it doesn't say brand new. I'm just having a so Simpsons and Bob's Burger and Trapolopoulos and Bob's Burgers and Grimsburg are all airing on the Fox network tonight. But I don't know if they're new episodes without looking into it a little bit further. Yes, it's a very hit and miss of like when they're dropping in, because it's like if I look to next Sunday, there's no animated episodes, so it's all a bit hit and miss with Fox. Chris says, with less show bands, movies being made, do you think the actors and writers feel about this? I think there's going to be a general consensus that it's going to be a lot harder for writers and movie stars, etc., to get jobs because there's going to be a lot less of them. I believe, like, I was reading a report the other day that I think we're like, like in 2019, in like the peak going up into how many shows were being made for the streaming wars, 600-700 shows a year scripted. I think it's down to less than half of that, and it's expected to stay that and get a little bit less. Tim says, speaking of game shows, Deal or Deal Australia is coming back after a 10-year break. Yeah, they just brought it back here in the UK too. Chris says, I remember the Disney Channel had a game show called Win, Lose or Draw for kids and was hosted by a guy who played Skippy on Family Ties. Yeah, I mean, they used to do this kind of thing. But I mean, we used to have ones over here as well. But again, it's the cost versus views. I don't know if kids are going to watch game shows the same way that we used to, because we used to watch them because there was nothing else on, and you couldn't watch anything else. Now kids have got other things. Do you watch a really lame like game show, or do you just put on an episode of Simpsons? I think that's the problem. Kay said, there are loose predictions for me, but I believe Disney will sell Freeform, consolidate Disney Junior and XD into the main Disney channel, and also consolidate the FX channels. I think we're going to definitely see XD will be dropped by most of the carriages. I think Disney Junior probably will be as well. The FX series will probably also. I think we're going to be down to, when they do the new carriage deals in the US, you're going to have Nat Geo, Disney Channel, FX, ABC, and ESPN. I think those are going to be your core channels, and everything else is going to get dropped, and they're just going to focus on them. Because the days of needing to have like a lot of the channels that grew up out of all, because we're at a time when we needed more channels because they had the digital space to put out more channels. So you gave more choice. So you could have like the BBC and Channel 4 and Disney stuff. They could all have like 10, 15, 20 channels because that was how it worked for a bit. But as the audiences shrunk, digital boxes and stuff, we just don't need all of those channels. So I think a core channel, I think Freeform is dead to whether or not they sell it, I don't know. So Suna says, do you think Sesame Street will end while kids are still watching it? No, I don't think so. Right. On that note, we've reached the end of the questions. So last chance, Saloon, get your questions in. A bit of a long one today, good ones. But I'll be ending the show in a second if we don't get any more. But again, big thank you to everyone for joining us. I'll be back next Sunday with another live Q&A. Check out during the week for new episodes of the What's on Disney Plus news. So they'll be covering all the news updates throughout the week. So that will be there. Also, as well, check out whatsondisneyplus.com. If you're there, do us a favor, sign up to the newsletter so you get updates on it. It really helps on multiple levels. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook to keep up with all the latest. Just visit the stuff on the website. That is the best way you can support. But also, just being a patron, being a YouTube channel member really does mean so much. It does really mean a lot. Okay, so the reason I think Freeform selling is shut down because of that albatross. I think I wouldn't be surprised if they just went, here's the keys to the car, take it. You can have Freeform back. Do what you need with it. Oh, by the way, it's not on any channels. Right. On that note, guys, thank you very much. And I shall see you later. Tally ho.